Back for another Transformers review. This is one of the few reduxes that I want to try and get out now, because today we're going to take a look at a figure that I picked up at Auto Assembly 09 and I really like a lot. Today we're going to take a look at, as the title page suggests, Cybertron Lugnutz. Now, Lugnutz. There isn't really a lot that I can say about Lugnutz, as the Cybertron is one of those cartoons that, okay, I endured Armada, and I suffered through Energon. I had no reason to watch Cybertron, so this is actually going to be quite brief in terms of his bio. Lugnutz pretty much follows wherever the road will take him. Well, actually, Lugnutz, in Galaxy Force, his name is Roadstorm, which I think actually sounds a lot better than Lugnutz, because when I think of Lugnut, I think of the character from Animated. But anyway, Lugnutz pretty much follows where the road takes him. He doesn't really care all that much about Megatron's whole rule of conquest, and even though he's usually associated with the Decepticons, he has no interest in conquest. So he's pretty much out of that whole group. But the only thing he is interested in is that he does a lot of menial tasks just to keep himself full of energon, to make sure that he's paid. But he mainly distances himself from a lot of the fighting. So he pretty much isn't a fighter. He's just a, shall we say, a brooding loner? Because I get the feeling that he is, but he does have some sort of a friendship with the Decepticon Thunderblast, which I don't really remember all that well from Cybertron, because Cybertron again was a crap cartoon. But anyway, sadly, what can you do? Anyway, about Lugnutz, his role in Cybertron in general. Lugnutz was one of the several Decepticons he was one of the several Cybertronians who arrived on Earth from the starship Atlantis, and they were hunted down and imprisoned by Crosswise and Evac. But then he was awakened along with the other Decepticons by Starscream, and with Thunderblast observed a group of Autobots arriving at Starscream's Volcano Island base. From what I understand, Lugnutz was one of the many characters in Cybertron that didn't really get all that much development. So there isn't really much I can say about that, but Lugnutz, let's see, after Thunderblast failed to hit Optimus, overriding Evac, Lugnutz got annoyed with the Autobots for harshing his mellow, so to speak, and he used his Cyberplanet key to attack Prime. Then later on, after majorly being bummed out after a big long fight with Prime and the Autobots, Lugnutz took refuge on a nearby hill to chill out, and Ransack pretty much ran into him, and they pretty much just had a little discussion between bike Transformers. So yeah, so that didn't really last very long, because Lugnutz was by himself when the Mega Lock empowered Starscream burst out of the volcano, and apparently deciding that his gig was nowhere else. Lugnutz vanished from battle. But pretty much Lugnutz throughout the whole cartoon, he was mainly seen on his own. He had no interest in fighting alongside the Decepticons. In the cartoon, I had no idea who voiced him in the English dub, but in the English dub he had this sort of surfer dude's accent, which I guess that can work well for a motorbike Transformer. But whenever I hear a voice coming out of a motorcycle Transformer, especially one like Lugnutz, I think of someone like Rob Halford, or what was it? One of the guys from American Chopper. That would have been awesome, but no, they went with a surfer dude accent. I know his seiyuu is Masafumi Kimura, and I know Kimura actually did a pretty good job, but it wasn't anything to write home about. But anyway, Lugnutz throughout Cybertron, after Galvatron's death, and after a very long fight between Prime and Galvatron, Lugnutz convinced his former foe Evac to join him on the exploration mission to build a much wider universe expansion, and he joined Evac and Backstop's crew on the reconstructed ship Hyboria, taking the Jungle Planet Cyberplanet key with him. So that's pretty much all I can say about Lugnutz. We didn't really get to see a lot of him do anything all that special. He was just mainly a character who I will fight alongside Megatron. I will fight alongside Galvatron, but I won't exactly take any interest in what you're doing. So I will do what you want me to do, but only if you pay me. That's pretty much Lugnutz altogether. But he goes wherever the road will take him. And that's pretty much Lugnutz in general. He's one of those characters who he doesn't care what anyone will think of him. He won't partake in anything destructive or any sort of conquest. He will just find ways to stay alive, as well as just he's sort of a pioneer in some way or another. But sadly, I think that Lugnutz could have actually done a lot more in fiction aside from just stand around and be on his own. But we'll never find that because Cybertron is now gone, and I think that if Cybertron had a long continuing comic line, we would have liked to see that happen, but what can you do? Anyway, though, now that I've rambled on about Lugnutz in general, we're going to cut straight onto the toy, and we're going to see how badass this toy is, so see you right back. Okay, so here we have Lugnutz in his alt mode, and I just want to call this figure right now, because Cybertron had a really good toy line. Some of the toys in that line were so impressively designed, and they were actually pretty good. The only downside was the cartoon, but a lot of people can look right past that and just move straight onto the awesomeness that is the toy line itself. Now, Lugnutz. One thing I just want to say right now, his alt mode is a Harley Davidson motorbike. And, of course, as you probably, if you don't already know, I'm a huge fan of Harley Davidson bikes. I think the design for them is really impressive. And to have one of them be a Decepticon, or a Transformer in general, I think that actually just makes it look even more awesome. If you have seen this toy before, this mold itself was redecoed to make Hightail, and it was also planned to make the 07 movie Backtrack, which that never happened, unfortunately. But what are you gonna do? It would have been nice to see that, but sadly, that's all I can say. Let's take a look at the toy up close, because this toy itself is actually a Scout-sized figure, and it's very impressive. It's very well detailed. Just want to look all over the toy itself. Metal detail and aside, you can see the paint scheme on here as well, and on the front, the little pack as well. That is really nice. The flame detail on this is so impressively done. Plus, this toy itself is up there next to Animated Oil Slick for being very, very metal. Because one thing that motorcycle Transformers are is that they are all metal. And that's all there is to it. You can't argue with that and say that it's not true, because they are. Motorcycle Transformers in general are just metal and just awesome. So, there we go. Aside from that, this toy does roll impressively well, depending on which surface you have. No rubber tires, unfortunately, but it would have been nice if they did have one. Since this is, after all, a Cybertron toy, it does come with the Cyberplanet key, which, of course, if you put inside the ignition space, or however you want to call it, put it in, Cyberkey power activates this really cool cannon, which, of course, there's the main part right there, and you can think of these three bits as, I don't know if you can see it, these three parts as being like grenade launchers, which, how metal can you get? But yeah, Lugnutz in general, his alt mode is very impressive. I like this toy a lot. Cybertron did have a very good toy line, I will say that again. Of course, the handles can move all the way around, depending on which way you want them to. But that's all it really does. I like this toy a lot. That's all I can say. Transforming him is not all that hard. First thing you need to do is just disconnect the front wheel, like so, and take off this piece, which that's going to become the weapon, and just disconnect the legs like that. Turn them around, and you'll see that this back part has been disconnected, so just rotate that around. Pull out the arms like that, and just fold the legs down as far as you can get them. Pull the feet out. Lift the head up, and then just connect the backpack to the main part of his body, if it will let me. There we go. And here is Lugnutz in his bitching, but sadly very small robot mode. Here we go. Now, I just want to go ahead and say it right now. This toy itself, even though the alt mode is impressive, the robot mode, I think, it has its pros and it has its cons. Okay, let's get on to the bad stuff so we can then move on to the good. The bad stuff is that his wheels. One thing that this robot mode doesn't do is that the wheels, they stick out very, very badly. But that's okay, I suppose. The head design, the head sculpt is very impressive. I like this head sculpt a lot. If you look at the instruction manual for this guy, it looks like he has no nose, but I love this design a lot. This head sculpt, this head sculpt is actually really impressive. He doesn't have red eyes because he's not a Decepticon, but well, he is sort of a Decepticon, but he doesn't really follow in the path anyway. But the head, of course, has no articulation at all. It reminds me a lot of Backstop. Another Cybertron toy, which I would recommend that you do not get. Arms aside, the arms do have some good articulation. The limbs are all on ball joints, so this toy has some decent articulation. The knees can move in and out, and the legs will go whichever way you want them to. The arms will sort of rotate the full 360, but they kind of stop halfway because of the wheels. But that can be overcome very simply. Now, this, which is his gun, this big long shotgun thing, put that into his arm. Well, sorry, put that into his hand, because you can see the hand designs right there. The hand, just put that right there, and put the arm out. There you go. That kind of looks okay. I like that design a lot. I actually like how this looks a lot, because trying to get this guy into some poses is a little hard because of the stupid wheels. But there is a way to get around that. Just let me try and straighten this guy out for you guys. And of course, let me put the cyber key in. Of course, cyber key power, and with the shotgun, with the shoulder cannon out, it makes this toy more awesome. So here is Lugnutz in some pose that I can try and get him to do without falling over, and he just looks awesome. But yeah, that's it, Cybertron Lugnutz. I'm just gonna say it right now. Get this toy, you will not be disappointed. I think this is actually one of the best designed toys in the Cybertron line. Cybertron does have some very good toys. Before you go ahead and start rejecting the series for having a crap cartoon, you need to check the toy line. The toy line is so impressively done. It's very well made. The toys, I think, are by far impressive in a lot of ways. Let me get this guy just straightened out for you one more time. There we go. Impressively designed, well sculpted, brilliant alt mode. The robot mode is a little bit tacky in some places, but that can easily be looked past and see how metal this toy is. And on that note, I request that you play the video game Full Throttle. If you haven't heard of it, shame on you. But Lugnutz, Roadstorm, whatever you want to call him, I like this toy a lot. Get him. He is a really impressive toy. You cannot go wrong. It was worth every penny. If you are a fan of the Cybertron toy line, I recommend this toy a lot. But anyway, this has been Transformers Cybertron Lugnutz, and I am Skullgrim140. And of course, like always, folks, thanks for watching. Catch you later.